Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Next Level Healing. I'm your host, Dr. Tara Perry, and I am here with Trisha.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Hi.
And my cat. Oh my God, she has to be the center of attention every time, right?
We love that.
Oh, go, go, go. So, what was it like? What were you struggling with prior to working with me, and what was it like to go through the process?
It's so funny because I was thinking about how it's hard for me to remember now just how bad things felt. It's been, 3 months that we've gone through this together, and um, prior to, I was really struggling with some severe anxiety. I'd always sort of had anxiety, but I had had some sort of back-to-back stacked losses, some personal trauma stuff, and it really, when you're in survival mode like that, you just keep going. And you don't acknowledge kind of what's going on because you have to keep going, you have to keep surviving. And in the background, it just was compounding and compounding and compounding and started to kind of come out as a lot of anxiety. Um,
You are driving me nuts. Stop that.
She wants to talk too. She needs to. Yeah. And so a lot of it was the anxiety piece. The anxiety then would kind of compound into this kind of space of a lot of fear. And then your confidence gets shaken in a lot of different areas. And then I started to feel, we talked about unworthiness a lot. In the rest of my life, I'm an entertainer, I'm a songwriter, I'm an artist, I'm a creative. And I think what people experience when they see somebody on stage is they think there's somebody who's got it all together. Because you're projecting this confident aura. And I don't think that that's to say that when I was struggling, that I was doing anything not genuine on stage. But it's almost like you're able to access a different part of yourself just to get through that moment, or to kind of express how I was feeling, when I was on stage. But when I wasn't on stage, I lost that pressure valve.
And how was that impacting your life? What were you noticing was showing up for you?
Well, the funny thing was, I was not even wanting to perform, because I was so anxious about the idea of messing up or doing something wrong or embarrassing myself. The unworthiness piece, I think, when it shakes your confidence, you think, I don't even want to put myself out there. But then again, the flip side was I was losing that pressure valve. In my other, my day job, I remember kind of the breaking points for me was I couldn't send an email. And that was so strange to me. That was such a weird, small, innocuous thing. But I remember the one day I was sitting and I was reading an email I was getting ready to send and rereading it and rereading it. And I just kept kind of looping on this email, making sure I didn't have any typos, making sure that I said everything okay. It wasn't going to be misunderstood. And I thought, this is not functional anymore. The anxiety had just gotten so bad that it was keeping me literally, it was decision paralysis in the biggest sense.
And what did you hear about my work that made you think, oh, this is something I think might work for me?
I I had done traditional talk therapy. I had gone through, medication in the past. I felt like what was going on with me was deeper than something that I could talk out.
Mm.
And so I looked for hypnotherapy. You were the first that came up, and I said, okay, well, this is something new for me. There's a lot of what we don't understand, we're a little fearful of.
Mm.
And so I said, okay, let's do some research. And so I saw some of the other videos that you had with some of your other patients, clients, people who had, especially people who had struggled with anxiety, struggled in sort of similar ways that I had, and seeing just the transformation for them and just hearing them talk about what they had gone through. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm there. Oh, you mean I could be on the other side of this?
Mm.
Yes, let's see, what can I do? How can I do this? So that was kind of a no-brainer at that point.
And where in the process did you realize, okay, this is different, this is working for me?
The first session. Yeah, the first session. Well, because I remember, again, what we don't understand, we're fearful of, but also it's something that I'm totally unfamiliar with. I remember thinking to myself, and I think we even joked about, like, I wasn't going to come out of the session, clucking like a chicken or barking like a dog, any of that. But I remember thinking, I went into it with some skepticism because I'd never been under hypnosis. I didn't know what that was going to feel like or be like. And I remember doing the first session and being being present, but almost under like a warm sort of kind of ethereal blanket. And so I was conscious and I was part of the session, and I remember my brain thinking, oh, oh, we're under it. Oh, this is happening. And then distinctly I remember you were talking directly to my subconscious, asked a question, and it answered.
I love that.
And I thought I I wasn't it was autopilot. It's like something else was able to kind of come through, and I thought this is where it is. This is where we're trying to heal from. So that was, yeah, that was the biggest moment for me.
Hey guys, studies are showing that 68% of people that watch podcasts regularly don't click the subscribe button. Do me a huge favor. If you like this content, click subscribe so other people know where to go for the cool stuff. Thank you. And fear does keep people away. It's so unfortunate, because what would you say to those people that are just not doing it? Because I know my cat.
That's what she would say to people. Um, you know, I think I I remember when I was at, like, again, that breaking point with the email scenario, and also even being in my own body felt so uncomfortable. Like, the anxiety was so, I was brimming so much with this anxiety that it's like almost like I felt like my skin was on fire or something. If you are to a place where you I don't want to say I was desperate, but you get to a space where you think, I will do anything to not have to feel like this anymore. And so if if anybody's out there who's afraid, um, do research. That for me, that's how I find, comfort in things, but also be willing to do something different if you finally want a different result.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so what were the before and after? What shifted in your life? What was your experience of life afterwards?
It was almost, I don't want to say it was instant, because I don't want to oversell it, but I felt like, I don't want to say I felt like a new person. I felt like who I knew I should have been all this time. And I hadn't really realized. I kept thinking, oh, over the last 3 years is really why I feel this way, stacked personal losses back to back. And it went back so much further than that. I mean, a lot of the things that I had experienced, the losses or the struggles or the difficulties, were because of patterns that had been set way back in my childhood.
I am so glad you said that, because that is 99% of the time that's the case.
It's not like I've drawn that to myself, right? But based on those belief systems that were set, again, that we every session we would go way back. We'd talk to little old me way back when. Those patterns were built then, and would ultimately lead to micro decisions that would ultimately lead to the scenarios that I had been living. It's remarkable how much easier, lighter. I said that to you a lot. I feel lighter.
It's a really common.
Yeah.
I heard it literally just today when I was talking to somebody I was working with.
Literally, you've been carrying bags around for years, and you're finally able to put them down. And it just changes the way that I interact with people. It's been changing the way that I approach my art. Because I wasn't so mired in trying to process everything like I would, through my art. Now I can just be present in it. Performing so much easier, because I'm not trying to put on a mask because I'm hurting inside.
Yeah.
No, now I can be on stage and not have to use it as therapy. Let it be just this wonderful expression. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, that's been a huge change.
And what about energy and health? Did you feel any shifts in that area?
Yeah, so I was sleeping, but I hadn't slept a full night in I don't know how many years. And that was one of the first things I noticed. Was the first night after our first session, I had the best night's sleep in I don't even know how long. Solid, didn't wake up in the night once, not even, not even to like, oh man, I drank too much water, I got to get up. No, just out until my alarm went off. And I woke up not surprised, not like startled when I woke up. I woke up just refreshed, like, oh, here's the day, I can take it on now. the energy has been tremendous. The ease in which that I move about my day has been great. We joked I wasn't trying to lose weight, and I did.
Yay.
And I think it's
I get a lot of people who are really grateful about that.
and I think because the stress, the cortisol, you're holding on to so much, your body says, okay, I've got to protect you here. Let's hold on to everything. And now it was just, I felt like, being able to be just a well-oiled machine.
Nice.
Everything could just operate the way that it's meant to, mentally, physically, emotionally, and all those pieces working together that's been the biggest change.
Fantastic. And what was it like listening to the audio recording that I made for you each night as you drifted off to sleep?
It's funny because I had been listening to just like, synthy kind of sleeping music anyhow up until that point. So I was used to that as a practice. But I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be different than what I'm used to. And I've done, this same sleeping music for the last 10 years. I know I'm going to change my pattern here. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep or not. And then I remember thinking, well, this will be different than the session because, she's not really here. It's not like when I was there in person. And the first night that I did it, I remember thinking, I'm there. I'm back under it again. And it's just to describe, like, again, being under an ethereal blanket is the best way I can describe it. You were very wonderful because you knew I had some apprehension about the idea of going under hypnosis, to explain that you're fully present, you're fully conscious. It's just the most relaxed state you can be in. And I think being able to get to that place every night, that gets me to the most restorative sleep, which is allowing me to then have the best next day, and then you just, much like the anxiety and things had been compounding for me, now the healing feels like it's been compounding.
And in a crazy way, you're actually more in control. It's like you've been under control over this spell. I like to call it unhypnosis or dehypnosis.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're peeling away layers. I like to, like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, when they pulled the curtain back and it's like, oh, it's just a little old man back there. We can't take him seriously anymore.
Exactly.
And then you can get on with your life.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing when, this sort of unnamed, kind of monster under the bed or the monster in the back of your closet of your brain, when you're able to open it up and see, oh no, it's a cat making noises, or, it's something else that when you take the power away from it, you're able to then heal from it. And for me, like I said, realizing that all of this stuff goes back to literally when I was 4 and 5 years old, just setting up these belief systems that then caused me to then somehow, like, the associations that my subconscious was making in our sessions, it astounded me. And I remember I called my mom right after our first session on my way home and just trying to explain to her what came up for me. And she was dumbfounded. She's like, you remembered that? And I said,
Wow.
yeah. I said, because, it would be a memory that you might have in passing, think, oh yeah, I remember when I was 4 years old and I had a piano recital. But when you're under hypnosis and that 4-year-old piano recital says, I'm afraid I'm going to mess up and disappoint people.
Mm-hmm.
And then your adult brain makes the association, because I felt that, this is why I feel this. It's remarkable.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I would say, again, for anybody who is thinking about this as a modality, as a tool, I can't recommend it enough. I told you before, to say it's life-changing, and I don't want to, again, oversell it, but to say that it's been life-changing it's almost an understatement, because it's I feel like I've gotten an entirely new chapter, and it's all because I was able to just kind of go in and kind of patch up the wounds that I couldn't have talked my way through. I had to find them.
It's if it's not in the conscious mind, how the heck are you going to solve it with your conscious mind?
Exactly. Precisely.
Well, thank you so much. And folks, if you know anybody who would benefit from listening to this, please share it with them. And we'll see you on the next episode of Next Level Healing.
Bye.
This podcast is intended for the purpose of providing information and education. It does not provide advice and is not meant to be used for any self-diagnosis or the replacement of any kind of licensed professional. The creators and individuals appearing here do not endorse any specific tests, positions, medications, products, or procedures. The views and opinions are expressed in this podcast are of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.